So in this session today, what we're going to do is build on the information that you've been given already on social determinants of health. And I'm going to use the term wider determinants of health. That's often used these days. And I'm just going to build on and add some more things that you have heard. But I also want, as you're going through, to think not just, oh yeah, it's another wider determinant of health, but to think, well, how would that affect food intake? How would that affect physical activity and other health-related behaviours? And the key thing I want you to think about is that these wider determinants of health have much more influence on health than healthcare or health choices. So those lifestyle choices that we make such a lot of emphasis on in healthcare and in dietetics actually are having a smaller impact than the external, these wider determinants of health. And these wider determinants of health are going to be really important for inequalities, and that's something that we're going to spend a little bit of time learning about as well. So I know you've seen this model before, but what I want you to look at is this table on the left-hand side of the slide. So there's your health behaviours, but if you look at the top, it's that relative contribution to population health. So health behaviours, whether you smoke, drink too much, eat too much, all those things account for about 30% of population health. The care that we provide in the NHS and in other places makes about 20%. But the social and economic factors, these wider impacts of health, have 40% of the impact on population health. And the built environment, that's like the town planning, the access to services and things that impacts standard of housing, those things make about a 10% difference. So the key thing here is wider determinants of health are hugely important for how people live their lives and for the health behaviours that they will undertake. So let's have a little moment about health inequalities. So what we're talking about here is something that's avoidable or preventable differences. So why one person is more likely to have a health problem than another. And I just thought some of these stats here just give you a bit of insight. So we see this between countries and within countries. So an example here, between countries, one of the key things that is impacted by differences in inequalities, is infant mortality. So in Iceland, a relatively affluent country with good healthcare, but less impact of wider determinants of health, infant mortality, i.e. a baby dying in the first year of life, is 2 in 1,000 live births. So too many, but a small proportion. But if you live in Mozambique, the chances are that 120 babies will die in the first year of life. Of those who are born alive, so live births, 120 will die. So that's huge, huge difference. And that is predominantly down to these wider determinants of health. Within countries, so in Indigenous Australian women have a much lower life expectancy. So expected to live to the age of nearly 65. But non-Indigenous women, 82. It's a massive, massive difference. And that's all due to these wider determinants of health. And within cities, you can see an example there as well. Glasgow is well recognised for having a huge difference in standard of living, wider determinants of health across the city. So in one part, in Colton, you've got a life expectancy of 54 for men, and a few kilometres away in Lenzie, the expected life is 28 years more. So nearly 30 years difference in life expectancy. And that's not due to genetics, that is purely due to the wider determinants of health. So a big impact. So when we're looking at population groups risk of health inequality. So who's most at risk? And we have these four categories. So we have people with protected characteristics. So that's your older people, that age, disability, gender reassignment, whether people in marriage or civil partnerships, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation. So all of those protective characteristics can have an impact on people's quality of life and their health inequalities. Those from socioeconomic deprived populations, the impact of wider determination on health, such as education, so they may have poorer education, lower income, poorer housing, less beneficial occupations, all of those things put people at risk. And what you find is that those things often cluster together. So someone with a low income and unemployed or a low paid job is probably going to be in an area of poor housing and probably going to be in an area where it feels less safe to be. So all of those things tend to cluster together. Inclusion health and vulnerable groups refers to those people who are less likely to access health services or to be reached by health services. So we're talking about, maybe traveling communities, people experiencing homelessness, those who've been offenders or part of the prison service, sex workers, those kinds of things. So they're people who are less likely to access the normal services or be accessed by them or supported by them. And then there's a geography aspect, and I'm sure you're all very well aware of the differences between North and South in the UK, which unfortunately are profound and not getting any better. But it's also, whether you're in rural areas or city areas, how connected you feel to your population around you, your community, all of those kinds of things. So these are the groups of people who are most likely to be at risk of suffering from health inequalities. Are we doing anything about it? Not enough, maybe. But I just wanted to draw your attention to this infographic about reducing health inequalities. And what that's about is the government trying to focus on the 20% of people, the population who are at the lowest level from the index of multiple deprivation. So those who are least well cared for by our communities, who are most deprived. And then they're looking at these different areas that they're going to try and work on. Maternity services, if you think back to what I said about infant mortality and how different that is with different people. Severe mental illness, people with severe mental illness tend to have poorer general health. Those with chronic respiratory diseases, and trying to get more early cancer diagnoses because they tend to be later in populations who are more deprived, and trying to find cases of hypertension earlier on to try and prevent heart disease and stroke. So these are the things that they have focused on in order to try and address some of the balance and the imbalance within our healthcare. So just focusing a little bit on the social gradient. And this is really quite an important concept to get your head around. And it's so consistent across the world. The poorer you are, the worse health you have. The lower your socioeconomic position, the worse your health. And it's wherever you look. And the key things that we see differences in from a health perspective are things like infant mortality, as I've mentioned, but life expectancy, also I've mentioned. But the other thing is the proportion of your life that you're likely to be negatively affected by being ill or having ill health. So it's not just how long you live, it's how much of that life is healthy life that is profoundly affected. And the things that are impacting on that and causing part of that problem include gender bias. So women tend to be worse affected than men. All our economic policies and political policies that sometimes lead to these problems getting worse. And if you look from a global perspective, you're looking at international aid, but you're also looking at social norms. How do people behave? What life choices do they make? What health behaviors are their norm and their culture? And then, of course, you've got areas of the world affected by conflict, um, which, of course, makes everything else worse. So all of those social determinants of health or wider determinants of health you've already heard about, those political policies need to work towards trying to decrease that social gradient. So they need to work together. Because what we do know, and that remains the same, is that resources are unequally distributed, and that makes things worse. The other thing that has a major impact is structured inequalities. And this is where one category of people are systematically attributed unequal status in relation to others. So there are plenty of societies where that becomes a norm, the situation becomes perpetuated, and certain categories of people have very different opportunities. And some of these examples will be fairly obvious to you. So we hear in the news quite a lot, sadly, that girls in Afghanistan are unable to access secondary education, and many of the women not able to work outside the home. So they are being systematically attributed an unequal status. Throughout the world, many ethnic minority groups in countries are treated in this way. Refugees, asylum seekers, often not allowed to work, so they can't get into society, they can't have that contact, they can't have that income, and that means that they are being systematically attributed unequal status. And of course, racism as well. Anyone who's being subjected to racism may decrease their opportunities in education and employment, those kinds of things. So these are things we've really got to continue to work on. So how could all of that be changed? Good question. It requires radical change, and it requires change from the top of government, but not just nationally, globally. So, we are subject to quite a lot of different laws that are wider than just the UK, less so since Brexit. But, there's a lot of legal things and policies that affect us all. And they need to align and complement rather than contradict, which often they contradict. And one of the difficulties we have in the UK is that another government will come in and change what has been established by one. They have to put their mark on it. It's one of the failings of our political system, I think. So what we end up with is someone coming in and changing things that were perhaps just settling down and improving things. Someone comes in, changes it, and then we go back to square one quite often. So what we're looking for, what we really need, is more equity in all the policies. But that's way above our pay grade, I think. So what I'd just like you to do before you go on to the next screencast is just spend a few minutes thinking about COVID-19 pandemic, because it's had a massive impact, but also the cost of living crisis and how that's impacted on these social or wider determinants of health in the UK, and how therefore that means how easy is it for people to live a healthier lifestyle. So spend a few minutes thinking about that and make some notes, because we'll come back to it, about how those things have impacted on our ability to choose healthy behaviours and to live a healthier lifestyle.